let's have a final look around at the system with all of the details for the system builders amongst you. And let's start with the loops. Seems I've finally been able to do this full symmetrical loop design, which I've been working towards for a while. This build was the perfect opportunity because we work with our customers in a lot of different ways, really however they want to. You know, sometimes we have no say about anything really. They know exactly what they want. For this build, the customer had already purchased the case, and so we had absolutely no say in the configuration of the case, this being a CaseLabs SMA8, which means that you can actually choose certain customizations for the case. So as soon as I received it, I realized it had the inverted motherboard tray, which already made things quite interesting, but then I also noticed it had the extended top. And so I thought this is the perfect opportunity to do this full symmetrical loop design because we have the space up in the top, you know, to run the loop up and over. Now, I know this looks complex, but think about the complexity that we've removed from the main compartment. Less than a quarter of the loop now remains in the main compartment. If you look at other CaseLabs builds where the entire loop is in the main compartment, I mean, you have tubes coming up to the components, going back to the components. On both pump and res combos, it's a lot of tube and complexity. Just take a look at build 28 or 27. So this makes things incredibly clean, and it now runs the loops through 4 compartments, all of the compartments of the case. Obviously the main compartment, but also the top compartment, the rear compartment, which we'll take a look at shortly, and even the lower compartment. So it makes the loops very interesting and exciting to build. And yeah, we really had a lot of fun designing and building this system. Where it all starts is with the pump and res combos because we have hidden inlets and outlets. I've run them straight through into the back. All 4 ports at the top, all 4 ports at the bottom, which also gives us fill and drain ports around the back, which is very convenient. It's a great place to have them. So what I've done here, at the top we have 1-inch D-plugs and then through panel fittings. At the bottom we have male-to-male fittings and then through panel fittings. So, you know, that's it for the hidden inlet and outlet configurations. For the monoblock loop, we have 25mm extensions and 90-degree single rotaries, and then straight through the mid plate. For the GPU loop, we have a parallel configuration, which is obviously extremely important for this full symmetrical design between the GPUs. And then we have 90-degree single, 90-degree dual, 30mm extension, 90-degree single, 90-degree single there, and 2 90-degree singles there, and then exactly the same thing around the other side. It's just mirrored. So symmetry across the top actually as well. I didn't want to go overboard with the lighting in this build because it's so clean and understated. So we have the RGB lighting on the monoblock, which comes with the monoblock, and I've just set this to blue, obviously to match the coolant. Then we have the lighting on the memory, which is white, and the EVGA SLI bridge, which I've set to blue. And then I've just run a single RGB LED strip at the top there, which is running off a Farbwork, which I've set to white, just to softly light the build. And I've also turned that down to 70% of its brightness. So the cables obviously also play a huge role in the symmetry and color scheme. And we decided to split the 24 pin in half and have half blue and half yellow. And so we just have this complete split between the colors, which just worked out perfectly, you know, throughout the cables and the loops. Now, I decided to take the PCIe cables up and over the top, which made them a fair bit longer. These cables are actually over 1 meter long. So normally I would go for shorter length because that's what I'm all about, minimalism, clean builds. But I just couldn't resist this. You know, achieving a parallel cable was quite important. And then in the middle, we have the 24 pin, and then the 8 pin EPS times 2, also parallel. You know, as opposed to having the PCIe cables come out and around the side, which just wouldn't have worked anywhere near as well. So this required a case mod at the top here, just to clean up the hole that we ran those cables through, get it down to the correct size. While I'm on the subject of case mods, we also have mods to the mid plate to clean it up and to put the through panel holes in the correct positions. And we also have the modifications here for the pump and res combos, a reservoir plate, and that section completely cut out, which you'll see when we take a look around the back. So really not much going on here in terms of cables, which is obviously the way you want it. We have USB cables there for the Farbwork and Aquero. We have the SATA data. Because there's a lot of storage in this build, we have the Samsung 960 Pro 512 gig M.2, the Intel 750 series 1.2 terabyte, and then 3 850 Pro 256 gig SSDs around the back, and 3 Western Digital Red 3 terabyte hard drives as well. So you can see all of the connections going to the Aquero up here, which worked out really nicely, very clean. Actually, I need to cut that. Oh no, hang on, I thought it was the cable tie, but it's actually the ambient temp sensor. I just hide those up there on the back of the Aquero. And then the radiators are done in the usual ways that we do them. Splitter as close as we can to the fans, and then one cable running back to the Aquero from each splitter. So we have one splitter for the 480mm radiator, and then one splitter each for the 560 and the 280. And that means that we can separately control all of these radiators based on different fan curves and different temperatures using the Aquero 6XT. As you would expect, a lot more going on around the back in terms of cables. So you can see a lot better from back here how we do our radiator fan cables. If all of them are long enough to reach the splitter, then we run them direct. If even just one of them is not long enough and we have to extend it, then we just extend all of them to match. So you can see that all of these had to be extended, and we don't have to do that, but we just want them all to match. This big bundle here is purely for control. It all goes to the Aquero. So this is a combination of, you know, fans, pumps, because we have Aqua Computer Aquabus pumps here. So there's a lot going on in that bundle. The 24 pin, very straightforward, nice short cable, worked out really well. But the PCIe, it runs from all the way down the bottom here, and it wraps around the back of the power supply, up and over, and in this corner. And this was to achieve the symmetry and the parallel design in the cable, but you know, we could have run it straight down there, but there's just too much going on. The 24 pin is in the way, and both loops are in the way at the bottom and at the top, and all of these other bundles that run through here, which is mostly for the 3 hard drives. So there are only 6 peripheral connections, and we were one short if we ran all 3 of the hard drives separately, and that's even running the SSDs together. So instead of running all 3 hard drives on one, which is, it's kind of difficult to build these cables because these connections don't allow for running 2 wires into the one pin. The connections are just too small, the holes. So, we have to solder like this. So this one has 2 on it and it's soldered. So this first hard drive here and then wraps around to this second one. And this one we did separately because we could. We had the one port free. So that's for the SATA power on the 3 hard drives. And actually this is another mod. There are a lot more little mods that you'll see around, like the through panel mods I haven't mentioned, and the mods for the hard drives which are connected to the motherboard tray, the FARB work, and then the SSDs are in a non-standard position as well. And yeah, you can see the cutout here for the pump and res combo or reservoir mounting plate, which is also custom. So yeah, this case really got hacked up a fair bit. So yeah, the rest of the cables, we have the FARB work here, which has power, USB, and then you can see the cable running off there for the RGB LED strip. That one just can't be sleeved. It's one of the only cables that we can't sleeve. You can see SATA data wrapping around there, another 2 going down here with also SATA power. Connecting to the 3 SSDs over here, front panel, the 2 cables running down there. Now this is an Aquabus splitter here. So we didn't have any small enough splitters left in stock. So we just have this massive 6 PWM splitter, which does the job just fine, but that runs the 2 Aquabus pumps. So yeah, you need to actually split Aquabus. So it runs off Aquabus high and it splits out to the 2 pumps, and these are detected separately and controlled separately based on the component temperatures. It's very important when you configure your Aquero and your fan curves and pump curves, because for this build we have fan RPM curves and pump RPM curves. And what you need to do, the fan RPM curves need to be based on what they're directly cooling, which is the coolant. So you base those on coolant temperature. The pump RPM curves need to be based on what they're kind of directly cooling. This is the way you can kind of remember it and think about it, which is the components. Like basically what, they're not directly cooling it, but they're coming into contact with the thing that is cooling them. So that's very important, and if you have a good think about it, you'll understand why. I won't go into that now. So also with this bundle we have front panel, and then we have the other 2 cables that run down there to the splitters on the 560 and 280. We have pump power coming across here. There's a lot going on. We have all 6 of the peripheral connections filled. Even though this is an AX1500i, we've pretty much loaded up all of the connections for this build. Mostly due to all of the storage, and we have a FARB work, we have an Aquero,